We are nearing the end of our epistemology unit, and this class is called The Ship of Theseus and Self-Identity. Now, you understand what self-identity is, but it's likely you don't know the story of the Ship of Theseus. So let me give you the quick abridged version of it. And this is a story that's been told for centuries, and it is the story of the mighty Theseus and his ship, which he sailed around Greece, and it was the greatest ship that had ever been built. But periodically, he would remove boards from his ship and threw it overboard. And people were trailing behind him and would collect those pieces of board. And eventually, Theseus sailed around long enough where his ship was all new boards, but somebody took the original boards and constructed a ship. So, which one is the original ship of Theseus? Now, you can already probably get this that we could argue in a circle, and there's no correct answer. It's a paradox. But the point of this is what is authentic, what is real, what is original, and what is derivative or not real or phony or fake or whatever you want to call it. So, we're going to apply the ship of Theseus to self identity. And you could look at this story through several different lenses, but for our purposes, we're going to look at it through self identity. And we're going to go every 7 years. Now, there are some people who believe, based on solar cycles, that we have a rejuvenation of our cells and we, in a sense, go through our own ship of Theseus on a cellular level every 7 years. Now, this is not hard facts, but there are some people who believe that. Okay, this is not science class, this is philosophy class. So let's just start off with how we're going to go about doing it. So, old school, grab a pencil, grab a sheet of paper. I'm going to ask you to number in increments of 7. So start off with 0, 7, 14, 21, and go all the way up to 77. And please skip 3 lines after each number. And if you're watching this because you were absent, you can do this at home. Don't really need to be in class for this because this class is very much looking at ourselves. So once you've done that, let me give you some ground rules. Okay, number 1, you aren't going to claim early deaths to avoid doing the drill. If you say, "Hey, I'm going to die tomorrow, I don't have to do this," don't be that person. Okay, this you're not getting any better by doing that. It's cute, it's funny, just don't be that person. Number 2, be honest with yourself and question what it means to be your authentic self. Are changes to self and deaths of old versions essential to reach this authentic self? In a sense, to create your authentic real self, do you need to kill, metaphorically, old versions of yourself? And then number 3, attempt to find value in seeing yourself at different stages in life. You might just get some direction and setting of goals that can benefit you in your journey. Okay, now speaking of our journey, we all start off with check-in at 0. Now, you might be wondering, why am I even going to include this? Now, although we are all born, we all come into the world, we didn't ask for it. How we were born, we didn't ask to be that way. It just happens. So, what I'm going to ask you to do is look at your circumstances because your birth order, were you the first? Were you the middle? Were you the last? Which number child are you? Are you the only child? Are you the ninth child? Where were you born? And what circumstances were you born in? So, in a sense, think of your birth as the original ship of Theseus. Okay, that's the original ship. Day one, when Theseus put it out on the water, that's the equivalent of that. And let us move through time. Age 7. Now, at this point, you see personalities emerging. So, what version of your ship were you at this point? I'm talking about first, second, third grade. How were you perceived? What was important to you at this time? And here's a picture of myself. And if you asked my second grade teacher, he would probably say, very hyperactive. That's probably what all my teachers said. So that was the version of me at that time. If I went back to the elementary school, and you probably have a different description, okay? And let's move on to 14. So by 14, you're entering adolescence and shaking out that little kid version of your ship. What version of yourself were you at 14? Now, considering people in my class are 16, 17, 18, it seems relatively short time, but in my experiences, the difference between grade 11 and grade 9, very, very different. So, how have you changed? How were you seen at 14? And to go along with the drill, if you were to talk to anybody when I was 14, I was the football guy, and that was my identity. I don't think anybody calls me the football guy at my age, okay? Now, age 21, you are considered a full adult with all the privileges and temptations that come from being an adult. Where do you see yourself at 21? Is it a different version of the ship than the ages of 7 and 14? How so? And again, I'm going along with the drill to kind of demonstrate here. Me at 21, it was Michigan State. I was the Spartan. So little kid, I was born age 7, I was the hyper little guy. 14, I was the football guy. 21, I was the Michigan State guy. And you're going to have a different description of yourself. Now, by age 28, you've been an adult for a decade or 7 years, depending on how you view adulthood. Now, how has your ship changed? What version do you see yourself at 28? And this is me at 28 with my old dog, and I had roommates, and I was a single guy, and, just working and, playing rugby and kind of living the life. It was a lot less responsibility than the life I have now. But there's pros and cons to every age. So where are you going to be at 28? What version of your ship of Theseus will you be at 28? Now, by 35, you are likely deep into your career and have some life experience under your belt. So, how would your ship be identified when you get to 35? So, for me, 35, I was the teacher. I was learning my craft. I really put a lot into it. I was trying to be the best I can be, making my mistakes, getting involved with, every facet of education. So, very different than that 28-year-old version of me, okay? A little more responsible, wearing a tie, that kind of thing. So where are you going to be at 35? What version of your ship are you going to be? Now, by age 42, a lot of people claim this is when the peak of our abilities. By 42, your mind's pretty good. You have all your marbles. Your body's probably intact, but you have some years of experience. So a lot of people say these are your peak years. And at 42, where are you going to be? What are you going to be up to? What version of your ship are you going to be? So I look at myself at 42, and I would call myself the father. My emphasis was on fatherhood and raising kids and going to water parks and cider mills and all those sorts of things that come from being a dad. No, you might choose a different version. It's your ship. My ship is not your ship, and everybody in this room has a different ship. I know I'm beating up this metaphor terribly, but you get where I'm coming from. And then by age 49, now most of us have reached at that point you reach the halfway mark, at least most of us have. So where is your ship at 49? Now, has your identity been altered? Now, how are you approaching the challenges of aging? How are you doing some things at this age you weren't doing in earlier versions of yourself? So I look at myself at 49, which is my present age right now, and my kids are almost grown. So probably my identity is going to be more husband, where in the past it was father and teacher and Spartan or football player or whatever. So the reason I'm even revealing my own personal journey is hopefully to demonstrate to you what your journey is going to be. What identity are you going to be? And you're going to see throughout a human life, you have old versions of you that go through metaphorical death to get to your enlightenment. So I can't go any higher than that. I know you have several more than I do. But again, I have to do this myself. Where am I going to be at 56? Where am I going to be at 63? Where am I going to be at 70? Where am I going to be at 77? Okay, and we'll see what happens toward the end there. Now, to give you a little perspective, maybe a little too harsh of a perspective, and this is according to the CDC.gov. I'm going to reveal my source because I don't want to be a hypocrite. As of making this video, it said that the average life expectancy for an American man is 73.5, and that for a woman, it's 79.3. So, if you are the average, you are going to go through every 7 years that ship of Theseus. And I hope that at each stage you are really satisfied and happy with that version of yourself, that you are where you want to be on a very short and simple level. Okay, so once we've gone through that, that personal look at, yourself, then we're going to branch out into the whole class. And these are the 3 questions. And if you're watching this because you missed class, you can still, answer these questions. And question 1, what do you consider an authentic self-identity? How does one achieve being authentic? That's an important question in a human life. Number 2, what does it mean to be original versus derivative? So I said that's the real deal or that's fake. Okay, how can you ascertain what's original, what's derivative? And then number 3, why are original material objects worth more than replicas, whether it be a painting or an antique or a sports card? Okay, why do human beings place so much importance on original objects versus derivative or replicas and that sort of thing? So hopefully you learned about yourself, and hopefully through the discussion we got more in touch to what is real, and I appreciate you watching.